Hello, I am Kathy Terry, and I will be presenting Understanding and Applying the Evidence Base for Strategic School Actions for the school action of Restart a Struggling School. Texas strategic school actions are bold strategies that Texas districts can use to meet the unique needs of students in their communities. The 4 school actions include create a new school, redesign a school, restart a struggling school, and reassigning students to a higher performing school. In this video, I will discuss relevant research related to restarting a struggling school. Restarting a struggling school can involve transforming an existing school with new leadership and instructional teams. Schools can implement the Effective Schools Framework Aligned Turnaround Model, and districts can select an authorized partner to manage the school restart or use the ACE model for restart, focusing on strategic staffing and instructional excellence. The research results about the effects of school restarts on student performance are mixed. A few studies included in this video describe results where school restarts and restructuring have positive connections to school outcomes, where other studies do not show the same connections. Several studies described here show that school restarts happen in conjunction with multiple school reform efforts, such as leadership and staff replacement, governance replacement, changes in professional development and discipline policies. Additional research is needed to understand the role school restarts play in driving student performance outcomes. One research summary article and 2 quasi-experimental studies discuss school reform models, including restarting schools to improve student achievement outcomes. Klute, Cherasaro, and Apthorp 2016 is a research summary article of 25 studies related to state interventions occurring at low-performing schools. The studies included were mostly descriptive, and the state interventions that were discussed were schools that had a turnaround partner intervention, schools that were involved in improvement planning, school redesign reform models, or closure reassignment reform models. The article included 25 articles, 10 which were located in California, and the majority of the studies were about schools with a turnaround partner. The authors described the components that led to school improvements. Turnaround partner interventions included a technical assistance provider that worked with the school to identify the school's needs, develop a school improvement plan, and provide technical assistance in implementing the plan. Other components that led to school improvement included strong leadership with the use of funding and action plans tied to the school's vision for improvement, the use of formative assessment data to guide instruction, as well as cultivating positive school culture characterized by trust and increased expectations from students. The de la Torre et al. Article discussed 5 distinct reform models that were implemented in Chicago public schools. The schools have been identified as chronically low performing by the district. The 5 distinct reform models that were implemented were reconstitution of the schools, school closure and restarts. Some schools implemented the School Turnaround Specialist Program, others implemented the Academy for Urban School Leadership, and some implemented the Chicago Public Schools Office of School Improvement Model. Again, the population was 36 intervention campuses, and the majority of the schools were predominantly African American. The study was quasi-experimental, and after 2 to 4 years, elementary schools that implemented reforms showed higher math and reading achievement gains compared to non-reform schools. This table displays the 4 school policy changes that were required as a part of the reform models. Some schools were required to replace their staff. Some had leadership replacement requirements. Some were required to replace their governance, and others had change in their attendance rules. For school closures and restarts, where new schools were created, they were required to change all 4 policies. This article, the de la Torre et al. Article, talking about the 5 school improvement models, does give a good description of what each of these models entail, as well as the relationship to student outcomes. This article by Gill, Zimmer, Christman, and Blanc discusses schools taken over by the state and assigned to a reform model. The reform models included private management, school restructuring, or state takeover. The population that was included in this study was 45 low-performing schools in Philadelphia. The authors reported that over a 4-year period after the state takeover, 5th graders and 8th graders had significant gains in math and English proficiency, regardless of intervention type. District-managed restructured schools showed large achievements in mathematics in the first 3 years of implementation. Students in restructured schools with intensive professional development and district oversight performed better in math for 4 years and in reading for 1 year following the school's restructuring. One case study and one quasi-experimental study discuss the outcome results of schools with SIG funds. The Floch et al. 2016 article was actually a summary of case studies that included 25 schools that received federal SIG funds from the school years of 2010-11 to 2012-13. The schools that received the SIG funds were actually required to implement one of 4 school improvement grant models. Those 4 models were the transformation model or the turnaround model. Schools could select to close a school and reassign students to a higher performing school, or the restart model. This study shows that teachers reported that their school had changed in positive ways after 3 years of SIG promoted practices, such as leadership changes and increased professional development. Dragoset et al. 2017 summarizes a research study of over 400 schools, with 270 of those that received school improvement grant funds. SIG-funded schools were required to implement improvement models such as transformation model, the turnaround model, reassignment and closure, or school restarts. This article provides a good description of these intervention models. It is a quasi-experimental design study, and the authors reported that the implementation of SIG models did not have significant impacts on math or reading test scores, high school graduation, or college enrollment rates. Here are a few takeaways from the research presented in this video. School reforms that include restructuring and redesigning schools can have positive connections with student performance outcomes, as reported by de la Torre et al. In 2013 and Gill, Zimmer, Christman, and Blanc in 2017. Given that school redesign models occur in conjunction with other school improvement efforts and policy changes, additional rigorous research is needed to examine the effects of redesigning schools on student academic outcomes. Here are the references for all of the research articles discussed in this video. If you have any questions about the material discussed in this video, please contact me, Kathy Terry. Thank you.